Welcome to the Midnight Dreary, your best stop on the highway of the unexplained. Pull up a bar stool and grab a drink as we present tonight's episode. And here's your host, Justin Wood.
Welcome everybody to the 14th episode of The Midnight Dreary. I am your host, Justin Wood. Before we get into tonight's episode, let me thank you guys. We have seen a huge spike in downloads, mostly after Halloween, but it's been consistent. So for all you guys who listen to us, all the Midnight Dreary fans out there, thank you so much. I am trying to dust off the cobwebs on the YouTube channel. In fact, I believe it only has one EVP up right now. But if you check out the Midnight Dreary on YouTube, I will put the link in the show notes. Like, subscribe that one EVP. I am working on producing some content, some videos on haunted places and the things that we talk about. Maybe I will even cross-post the podcast on there. So check the show notes. Please subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're on as well. Please like, subscribe, rate. And again, thank you so much for tuning in as I drop these episodes, and any suggestions or ideas, as always, can be sent to TheMidnightDreary@yahoo.com. I have been ready for this episode for quite some time. Tonight's episode, we're going to do a deep dive into the unsettling world of clowns. Let's explore their fear factor, the chilling legends, the haunting tales, their pervasive presence in popular media. We're going to navigate through a maze of the creepy, makeup-wearing legends that you all love, hate, and are just genuinely freaked out by. And to cap it off, I have a bone-chilling poem that I penned years ago. It's in my book, Needless Nightmares, called Ringmaster Reaper. Hope you guys like that as well. So let's hop right into this circus. See what I did there? Plunge right into the abyss and confront the terror of clowns. Scientific America actually did a survey on the fear of clowns. And fear of clowns, that is called coulrophobia. It's widely recognized among both adults and children across most cultures. But there's limited research on why people are scared of clowns. So they wanted to understand what leads to this huge fear. Over half the adults that they polled, it was almost 1,000 from ages 18 to 77 and around the globe, 53.5% admitted some degree of fear, with 5% of those expressing extreme dread of clowns. This number actually eclipses many other phobias, including those of most animals, needles, and even heights, which a lot of people I know are really scared of heights. That's a common fear, but more people are scared of clowns. There's a little bit of a gender skew as well, with women exhibiting a greater fear. And as you get older, they noted that the coulrophobia, fear of clowns, wanes with age, which is similar to other anxieties. In their investigation, 8 hypotheses emerged on what makes clowns so scary, and here they are. Clown makeup, it creates an eerie, not quite human appearance, akin to the unsettling aura of dolls or mannequins. The exaggerated facial features evoke a direct sense of threat. Clown makeup conceals emotions, which breeds uncertainty. The colors of clown makeup evoke associations with death, injury, or infection. Have you guys seen clowns that put infection makeup on their face? This triggers disgust or avoidance. Their unpredictable behavior unnerves us. Familial transmission of clowns. That's kind of funny. Can you imagine in your family that you pass down a fear of clowns genetically, or I guess through your family? If your dad or your granddad just hates clowns, that's in your blood not to like them. And let's see, the last 2 negative portrayals of clowns in popular culture. We'll talk about some scary clowns in this podcast. And terrifying encounters with clowns. Which is true. I could see that because parents often want to bring their kids to the circus at a pretty young age, And those clowns are right up in your face if you're really close. This happened to myself and my brother when we were young. We had to be 5 years old or smaller than that, and they had a meet and greet when Ringling came to town when we were kids. My parents took us, and we're little kids. Like I said, 5 years or less. My parents took us down there to meet some of the performers, including some clowns, and they popped right in their face, honking those horns, scared the hell out of both of us. They don't scare me as bad as anymore. But as a kid, that was a terrifying event. Maybe I'll pass that down to my kids and we'll go back to that familial transmission of clown fear. And just who are these makeup-wearing freaks? Let's talk about the ones in pop culture, shall we? Start off with probably the most notable of all, the Joker from Batman, right? Let's talk about the chaos and dive into the mind of the one and only Joker, the enigmatic nemesis of the Dark Knight himself, Batman. He embodies that essence of anarchy and unpredictability. His origin stories, they're shrouded in mystery. They amplify that fear surrounding him. That paint in whichever version of Batman you watch, it's unsettling. That painted grin, that's his trademark. It is the facade of an agent of madness, and it challenges Gotham's sense of order. And to me, I think it's no contest, and everybody's got to be in universal agreement. Heath Ledger, he set the standard in that role. But what truly terrifies us about the Joker? It's not just his appearance. It's the way he revels in that chaos, his twisted sense of humor, that eerie laugh that echoes throughout the streets, unpredictability, everything we just talked about in that survey. He leaves everyone on the edge. He's not just a criminal mastermind. He is the embodiment of fear itself, lurking in the shadows of our psyche and haunting Gotham with his evil presence. Next up, one of my favorites, The Simpsons, Krusty the Clown. Amidst those laughs on The Simpsons, there's Krusty, the clown who entertains Bart, Lisa, and all the kids of Springfield on screen, but he battles a lot of personal demons off the screen. He's the epitome of that unsettling contrast between public image and private struggle. And behind his makeup and laughter lies a darker reality. If you really take a deep dive into The Simpsons, Krusty is a troubled soul battling addiction and moral dilemmas. His character reminds us that even those who bring joy to others might grapple with their own haunting shadows, sparking a different kind of fear. Fear of what lies beneath the surface. By the way, did anyone play those awful Krusty's Funhouse and Super Funhouse for the Nintendo and Super Nintendo back in the day? I love most of the Simpsons games. These were not the best. At the time, though, anything related to The Simpsons, especially when Krusty was involved, I played. And looking back through rose-colored glasses, I have fond memories. But tried to do a recent playthrough of these games. Man, they were lower on the totem pole than the other Simpsons games for sure. But Krusty the Clown, what a legend. And for a real turn, this is not an actor, not an animated character, John Wayne Gacy as Pogo the Clown. Let's dive into this chilling reality. John Wayne Gacy, real-life serial killer, took on the persona of Pogo the Clown. That was a guise that hid a really sinister truth. He's a man who entertained at children's parties and also committed extremely heinous crimes. His alter ego adds a haunting layer to the concept of clowns, that stark contrast between innocence and unspeakable evil. Pogo wasn't just a character for Gacy, he was a deception, a mask behind which a monster lurked. Gacy's ability to embody both entertainer and predator blurred the lines between innocence and malevolence, amplifying the fear that such darkness can hide behind such an innocent facade. Gacy, ultimately convicted of 33 murders committed between 1972 and 1978, was given the death penalty, which was carried out in 1994. Hauntingly enough, in prison, he painted several paintings which portrayed him as Pogo the Clown. If you're like me and you grew up in the 90s, you probably watched some wrestling. It was at its peak back then, WWF battling WCW. There was a different kind of clown that stepped into the squared circle, Doink the Clown. Who doesn't remember this guy? A persona in the world of professional wrestling. He was a larger-than-life character, rivaled some of the top performers back then, a mischievous and sometimes malevolent clown. definitely messed with the kids, which was hilarious at the time, but most of them ran away from him when he walked to the ring. Had that nice entrance music, the Carnival theme, which slowly became that haunting theme. Matt Bourne was one of the doinks and the best doink, and if you haven't had the chance, you should see the dark side of the ring about his life and how he really sold this character. Doink's antics blended humor with a touch of sinister behavior, which created that unsettling mix for wrestling fans. That colorful face paint, oversized attire, his bag of tricks. He also competed with some little people during some of the matches. I can't remember their names. Was it Dink, Wink, and Pink? So he had just colorful, unexpected matches back then, and he blurred the lines between entertainer and antagonist, added that unique twist to the world of professional wrestling. Unpredictable nature and ability to confound opponents with his clownish tricks made him both a memorable character and a reminder that clowns can play both sides of the coin, bringing laughter and sending shivers down the spine. And it's not really an episode talking about clowns if we don't mention this next character, arguably one of my favorites. This is going to be his second appearance on the Midnight Dreary, as he made an appearance in the Top 5 Horror Villains podcast. I think that may have been episode 5. Go back and check it out. Let's talk about Pennywise, the dancing clown from Stephen King's It, shape-shifting entity, the malevolent force, the deadlights. He manifests as a clown. He preys on the deepest fears of children in the town of Derry, Maine. That eerie, painted face, twisted grin, haunting eyes, hiding in sewers. Pennywise is the embodiment of terror itself. Arguably my favorite on this list. To me, he looks like a haunted house version of Bozo with that hair that goes around but a little bald on top. Absolutely terrifying. Let's do a deep dive with Pennywise, because if you haven't seen It, I highly recommend it. And if for you guys that love to read books out there, the novel truly adds a lot more depth to his character. So Pennywise, his character is an ancient, shape-shifting, transdimensional, evil entity who preys upon children, sometimes adults, of Derry, Maine. And he pops out roughly every 27 years. He has a variety of powers. Most notably, he can shapeshift, manipulate reality, and he goes unnoticed by the adults. During the course of the story, It primarily appears in the form of Pennywise, the dancing clown. I always thought it was so creepy when he was in the background of the paintings and the pictures of the early Derry settlers. Man, that was terrifying. Stephen King talked about this in a 2013 interview, how he came up with the idea of Pennywise. He asked himself what children feared more than anything in the world, and the answer was clowns. Imagine that. We talked about the study earlier. King thought of a troll like the one in the children's tale Three Billy Goats Gruff, though he imagined it living in a sewer system rather than under a bridge. Alright, we talked about the novel, which gives a little more depth to his character. Shape-shifting monster, usually takes the form of Pennywise the dancing clown, but where does he come from? Well, he originated in a void containing and surrounding our universe, a place referred to in the novel as the Macroverse. It arrived on Earth during an asteroid impact and made its home under the land upon which Derry would later be constructed. Initially preying on the North American tribes, it slept for millions of years. Then, when the humans first appeared in the area, it awoke and began a feeding cycle lasting about a year, feeding on people's fears and frequently assuming the shape of whatever its prey feared the most. After feeding, it would resume hibernation for approximately 30 years before reappearing. It has a preference for children since their fears are easier to interpret and adults are more difficult to frighten while it is in physical form. It likens scaring children prior to consumption as adding salt to the meal, so they taste better when they're terrified. Pennywise isn't just a clown, it is the darkness that we fear, lurking in the shadows of our minds. Its legacy spans generations. It evokes a primal terror, a reminder that even childhood innocence can be twisted into something sinister and terrifying. He is the deadlights. He's everywhere, even places where we can't escape. And I referred to him as a he. It's alluded that it is a he, But then the Losers Club begins to think it may be a she after he takes the form of a spider and begins laying eggs. Most important question. Who's the better Pennywise, Tim Curry or Bill Skarsgård? This one I can't choose. I think Heath Ledger is the obvious choice when we talk about the Joker. But for Pennywise, man, I remember my dad, for some unknown reason, let a really young, maybe 7 or 8-year-old boy watch it while he was watching the miniseries on TV, or either he just didn't realize I was on the couch at the time. It terrified me. Tim Curry's performance, masterful, but the recent remake, so damn good. Bill Skarsgård, man, he really lit the character on fire. Impossible to pick between both those acting geniuses. So hats off to Tim Curry, Bill Skarsgård. They really brought the character to life. And truthfully, give Bill Skarsgård a lot of credit on that, because following Tim Curry's performance from the original, hard to do, and he brought his own character to it, which was also Pennywise, the dancing clown. Alright, have you guys had enough about clowns on the big screen? Shall we talk about real places with some real clown history, or a real clown theme, or anything to do with creepy carnival freaks? Let's do it. I thought it would be fun to find a couple of places across America that had some clown relevance, carnival relevance, something like that. And I think I did an okay job. You guys tell me. And if you know something, local tell, that I've missed, somewhere that's cool, that has that clown, carnival, circus theme, let me know. TheMidnightDreary at yahoo.com. Let's talk about this first one. This is relatively local to me, the Southeast in Columbus, Georgia. A clown on a riverbank who has been seen to cry at night. How about that? Twin Chapel Creek quietly winds its way through North Columbus, Georgia, nestled near Whitesville Road. Despite its unassuming appearance, this small waterway carries a local legend of a haunting spirit. Veiled by dense woods and foliage, many overlook this creek, unaware of its eerie tale. Witnesses claim to have seen a peculiar sight, a weeping clown seated by the creek's edge during the night. Some accounts even speak of children's laughter, beckoning passerbys to visit this unseen place. Strangely enough, this haunting narrative finds a curious connection just a few miles south, neighboring another haunted spot on Whitesville Road, a Crybaby Bridge. I did an early episode on Crybaby Bridges in Alabama. If you guys want to go back, it may have been the first episode. I think they're fun places to visit. To visit. I don't put too much stock into those because they pop up everywhere, but definitely some cool ones out there. Let's get back to the clown. Most locals only spot the typical creatures that you would see inhabiting the creek bed, but there's a persistent belief of a mournful clown haunting Twin Chapel Creek. Curiously, this isn't the only spectral clown story in Columbus. Another obscure tale tells of a cycling clown on dark nights along South Lumpkin Road near Oxbow Meadows, fading into the night after a fleeting appearance. If you have seen a clown riding a bicycle on South Lumpkin Road in Columbus, Georgia, please email me or call me. That is a fantastic ghost story right there. This gets even better, though, because if you know me, or you've listened to this podcast long enough, one thing that I love is any ghost story that has some type of historical or actual event tied to it. And I thought about this when I saw it on the Shadowlands originally years ago. This seems like something somebody just made up, sent in a story, got it printed. A haunting clown ghost in Columbus, Georgia. Where's the relevance to a clown just popping out of nowhere? Where the heck is a clown riding down a road on a bicycle? But the origins of the story remain a mystery. However, the closest historical reference leads to a devastating event, a 1915 circus train crash east of Columbus. This collision between the T. Kennedy Carnival train and an unexpected passenger train claimed numerous circus performers' lives. A memorial resembling a tent-shaped tombstone stands as a tribute to the tragedy 6.5 miles east of the city, marking the site where the collision took place. Let's talk about that collision with the circus train. On a fateful mid-afternoon in 1915, the Carnival train collided head-on with a passenger train on a straight stretch of track. While the passenger train's metal cars endured the impact, the wooden carriages of the circus train crumpled into the engine, igniting a fire that consumed most of the animals and possibly dozens of circus personnel. The memorial's details remain vague, not specifying the exact number of casualties or if they're interred beneath it, leaving room for speculation regarding the mingled remains of the train's contents. Yes, this tragic train wreck involving circus performers did occur, and the memorial stands as a solemn reminder of the event, although its specifics and the resting place of those lost remain shrouded in mystery. Columbus, Georgia. The clown crying on the riverbank, another clown riding through the night on a bicycle. Could they possibly be the spirits of those who perished in the 1915 Carnival train crash that happened 6 miles east? If you're in Columbus, Georgia, or close, or have heard this story before, let me know. Fascinating story. Let's back up the circus train. We're heading from the southeast out west to Tonopah, Nevada. Nestled in Tonopah, the Clown Motel proudly boasts the world's most extensive private collection of clown memorabilia. Beyond its eerie clown-themed decor that extends from the lobby to every single room, the added thrill of resident ghosts from the neighboring cemetery might send shivers down your spine. Even a brief visit to the lobby promises an inundation of clown paraphernalia and a chance to grab uniquely bizarre souvenirs from the mini gift shop tucked in the corner. Please don't forget complimentary clown noses for the daring. If you really want to fit in, you've got to grab a complimentary clown nose. But what truly cements the Clown Motel's reputation? Well, I would think being a clown-based themed motel out in the middle of the desert has something to do with that. But picture this. Over 2,000 clown figurines gathered worldwide, adorning every nook and cranny. It all began in 1985 when Leona and Leroy David, honoring their father, Clarence David, an ardent clown enthusiast, decided to dedicate the motel to his legacy, using his collection of 150 clowns as the heart of its theme. Upon check-in, guests are greeted by thousands of grinning clowns perched on the lobby shelves. As for the rooms, each of the 31 accommodations showcases 2 to 3 bespoke clown art pieces. Are you one to seek an otherworldly encounter? Consider rooms 108, 111, 210, or 214. I did not find what ghosts lurk in these rooms, what spirits, or what makes these different than the other 27. So if you've ever stayed here, and especially in 108, 111, 210, or 214, let me know. But rest assured, every room boasts modern amenities, TV, fridge, microwave, and climate control. Positioned adjacent to the historic Old Tonopah Cemetery, where victims of the tragic Belmont mine fire of 1911 rest, the Clown Motel embraces notoriety as America's scariest motel. Featured on Travel Channel's Ghost Adventures, its proximity to the cemetery only adds to its chilling allure. When in the area, a visit to 521 North Main Street, Tonopah, Nevada, promises an unforgettable experience. I've seen several YouTube videos where people have stayed there. This place really is creepy, and I think for me, anything out west, if you've ever been out to the desert, man, it's creepy enough on its own because it's miles and miles of absolute nothing. Darkness at night. And staying in a hotel themed with clowns? Absolutely terrifying. I'm curious if you lovely listeners of the Midnight Dreary would stay at the Clown Motel. I imagine most of you probably haven't been to Tonopah, Nevada and checked it out yet. But go on YouTube, take a virtual tour or a video tour, look at this place, and let me know if you would stay in the Clown Motel. It would be terrifying, but I'd like to give it a shot. I really think I would. Let's pack our bags from the Clown Motel. Time to check out. We're heading to Forest Park, Illinois to Showman's Rest. Showman's Rest is a 750-plot section of Woodlawn Cemetery, mostly for circus performers. The first performers and show workers were buried there in a mass grave when between 56 and 61 employees of the Hagenbeck Wallace Circus were interred there after they were killed in the Hammond circus train wreck on June 22nd, 1918. Let's talk about that wreck. Man, there was a lot of circus trains back then. The first story, or the place to visit we talked about, the 1950 circus train wreck, 1915, I should say, now 3 years later, 1918 in Hessville, Indiana. On that fateful morning of June 22nd, 1918, darkness still held sway at 4 a.m., veiling the impending tragedy about to unfold in Hammond, Indiana. The Hagenbeck Wallace Circus, poised to amaze audience at the showgrounds on 150th and Calumet Avenue, had cast its promotional spell on the town with promises of unparalleled thrills beneath the big top. Advertisements heralded the grand arrival of clowns, lions, elephants, and tightrope walkers, inviting the townsfolk to witness this spectacle. Hammond had been graced by this renowned circus in previous years, 1907, 1910, 1912, and 1914, establishing it as a premier entertainment event of its time. With 3 special trains ferrying over 1,000 employees and boasting more than 22 tents, the daily expenses soared to around $7,500. Daily expenses. That's an astronomical figure for that era. As the clock struck 10 a.m., anticipation swelled among the town's children, eagerly waiting the circus's arrival. However, instead of the anticipated parade and jovial clowns, tragedy loomed, etching an unforgettable memory. Hours earlier, as the train journeyed towards Hammond, it made an unscheduled stop near Ivanhoe to address an overheated wheel-bearing box. Positioned across the tracks, the front of the 26-car train edged onto the Gary and Western Railroad tracks, while the rear rested on the Michigan City Railroad tracks. The eerie silence was disrupted by the screeching approach of an empty train helmed by Alonzo Sargent. A previously dismissed engineer could not find why he was dismissed. Ignoring red signals and the frantic warnings of a flagman at signal number 2581, the troop train collided with the rear of the circus train, obliterating 3 sleeping cars and igniting a devastating fire. He was a terrible engineer. Amidst the wreckage, trapped survivors faced a harrowing fate, unable to escape the encroaching flames. Tragically, 86 lives were lost, mostly among the newly hired roustabouts for the Hagenbeck Wallace performance. The victims, many known only by nicknames, were memorialized by simple markers like Baldy, Smiley, 4-horse driver, or identified as unknown male followed by a number. Among those lost were Arthur Dierks and Max Neatsborn of the Great Dierks Brothers Strongman Act and Jenny Ward Todd of the Flying Wards. Remarkably, the Hagenbeck Wallace Circus only missed one performance, the ill-fated show in Hammond. Swiftly rearranging acts borrowed from other circuses, they resumed their schedule in Beloit, Wisconsin the following day. In the aftermath, the Showmen's League of America swiftly intervened, securing a final resting place for the crash victims. 5 days later, survivors congregated at Woodlawn Cemetery for the burial of 56 individuals. Even today, on Memorial Day, the Showmen's League of America gathers at Woodlawn Cemetery, commemorating their lost brethren and upholding a symbolic devotion to their industry. So, if you ever find yourself outside of Chicago and would like to pay your respect to those showmen who lost their lives tragically in this train accident, and I believe there were several others buried after this occurred, this showman's rest is in Forest Park, Illinois. That's Woodlawn Cemetery. And there's also showman's rest in other cemeteries. I see Hugo, Oklahoma, Tampa, Florida, and Miami, Florida, which apparently is the largest showman's rest. And if there's any others that I may have missed, let me know. I think that's really cool and poignant that the circus has their own plots or sections in the cemetery for the people that have performed and given their lives to entertaining others. There's something fascinating about that. So I'm curious, as big as the circus is, how many other showman's rest are out there besides the one I've listed? Yeah, let me know if you can come up with any, especially if they have any creepy, scary, historical tales attached to them. We talked about 5 terrifying clowns. We visited 3 scary circus clown-themed places. Let's read Ringmaster Reaper. This is in my book, Needless Nightmares. It's on Amazon. Just type in Needless Nightmares Justin Wood, you should find it. Let the show begin.
A terrible malady struck the country, a force of impending doom. Graveyards were full, the people filled with gloom. The angel of death had exceeded his range, and decided it was time to give back for a change. He dusted off a top hat, donned a coat, called upon the dead, and cleared his throat. Those with talent, those who can perform, sign up with me, and a carnival was born. Assembled before him was a symphony of freaks that would make the living smile for a couple of weeks. The tour showcased a ghoul with a beard of killer bees, and 2 skeletons would swing on the flying trapeze. Attendance was going up as the death rate slowed down. The townspeople laughed at the decaying clowns. A zombie would tame lions in a cage as a chorus of ghosts would sing on a stage. When happiness was back, the Reaper broke the news, gave gratitude to the people, but there was something he could use. His speech was a grand one, even inspiring. But folks ran like hell when he said, "Now we're hiring."
What a fun episode, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all you thrill seekers. We bid you adieu from the Midnight Dreary Circus, but hold on tight. Did you really think I would skip mentioning Zeebo the Clown? That chilling nightmare from Nickelodeon's inaugural season of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Zeebo, the haunting clown from Laughing in the Dark Spook House at Playland, lurked in an episode aptly named Laughing in the Dark. If you don't remember this episode, go to Amazon Prime TV and download Are You Afraid of the Dark? Let's break down this episode. Local troublemaker Josh, egged on by his chicken-hearted pal Ouija, gets dared to swipe Zeebo's nose. Yeah, he actually does it. But let me tell you, Zeebo is not having any of that mischief. He starts trailing that little red-headed troublemaker until he caves in and returns the nose. Let me tell you, when Zeebo plants himself outside of the room and he inflates that balloon under the door that says, "Give it back," and then it pops, checkmate, Josh, return it. Gotta hand it to Josh though, man, at that point he is terrified. He goes back to Playland after dark, goes into the spook house, promptly puts the nose back, and he even throws in a box of cigars. Watch the episode. Zeebo apparently smokes cigars, so Josh brings him a peace offering after he snatched his nose. It's always baffled me how a kid who's about 12 years old manages to get a box of cigars. He must have taken them from his dad, so Josh's mischief continues for another day. But hey, he made things right with Zeebo. Check out this episode if you haven't. Are You Afraid of the Dark is still a classic show. Love it. And as we part ways, I will leave you with some eerie echoes from Laughing in the Dark. Until next time on The Midnight Dreary.
It's the most fun in the park when you're laughing in the dark.
Thanks for stopping by the Midnight Dreary. We'll be open again next week to serve up more drinks and more mysteries. Until then, safe travels.